We are doing some super sleuth stuff. We are following what big tech is doing to this election. Dr. Robert Epstein is with us now. He's an author, editor, longtime psychology researcher, and professor, distinguished scientist who's passionate about educating the public about advances in mental health and behavioral sciences. He was the editor-in-chief of Psychology Today. He is currently the senior research psychologist at the American Institute for Behavioral Research and Technology and contributing editor for Scientific American Mind. He is also the founder and director emeritus of the Cambridge Center for Behavioral Studies in Massachusetts. Wow, that's a mouthful. In other words, he's accomplished and he knows what he's talking about. Doctor, welcome to the program.
Glenn, you and your audience have accomplished the impossible. I just can't even tell you what you have done. Without you, we would have nothing.
So what is it that you were able to do? Because I know you had a huge project you wanted to do, and for some reason, none of the big money wanted to step up. So our audience stepped up and funded it. What is it that you do have now? What is the scale of this?
Well, because of very generous donations from more than 7,000 of your listeners and viewers, we have set up a much larger monitoring system than we've ever set up before.
Excellent.
We have now more than 600 field agents, all anonymous and all in the swing states and even in the swing counties in the swing states where all the action is. And through their computers, with their permission, we are monitoring not just Google, Bing, Yahoo, YouTube, Facebook, and we are we're preserving hundreds and hundreds of thousands of ephemeral experiences, they're called. Those are these quick, fleeting experiences that these companies use to manipulate people. And we're actually recording them. Normally, they're lost forever. See, that's the whole problem. You can't go back in time and see what search results or news feeds or messages, from Facebook. You can't go back in time and see what these things were. Mm-hmm. But we are actually capturing them. We're basically, with permission, looking over the shoulders now of more than 600 people, all registered voters, very diverse group of Democrats, Republicans, independents, and we're capturing hour by hour by hour, 24 hours a day, a massive amount of data. And even though election hasn't come yet, we've actually started analyzing what's coming in.
Are you far enough? Are you far enough along to be confident of any of your findings?
Yes. I mean, what we're doing now at the moment, analysis-wise, of course, is preliminary. The numbers will change to some extent because we've captured more than 1 million web pages, but by Tuesday we might have 2 million. But yes, we are getting some numbers that we're confident of, and they're very disturbing.
Can you give me any clue as to the kinds of things that are happening? You don't have to. I don't want to. I mean, what should people look for? How could you notice this stuff, or can you even notice it?
Oh, you can't see it. You cannot see what's going on. Let's put it this way. Let's just say that today Facebook was sending messages reminding people to register if they haven't registered, urging them to vote. And let's say those messages were going, let's say, just to people who lean left, which I do. How would you know that? No one would know that there was targeting of that sort unless we're monitoring what we're doing.
And you're monitoring, and you are, let's just say, for an example, you might be capturing that.
We might be. It's possible.
Yeah, it is.
I can't really, I can't really just say, but we could be capturing possibly YouTube sequences, and YouTube sequences are unbelievably powerful because if you're undecided on some issue and then YouTube keeps feeding you videos using their up next algorithm. They just keep feeding you one video after another. 70% of the videos people watch now on YouTube are suggested by Google's top secret up next algorithm. 70%. And we might be capturing YouTube sequences suggested by their algorithm. We might be.
We might be, but we don't. We wouldn't want to say. Let me ask you this: what you're seeing, is it on par with? I think 2018 was worse than 2016. Is it on par of that, or is it worse?
Let me give you just a couple of actual numbers. Now, this is tentative. Normally, I wouldn't release this information before the election, but there's a reason why I'm doing it now.
Why? What's the reason?
The reason is because I want these companies to know that they're being watched just like they watch us. Why? Because maybe, possibly, they'll back off on a couple of these manipulations, and we'll detect that. We will detect that, and that will prove the power of monitoring to maintain the integrity of the free and fair election, to protect democracy. And maybe we can get them to back off. That is the whole point of me going public now.
Okay.
And I can give you a couple of numbers, which
are preliminary.
Disturbing.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. First of all, we're finding on Google search results, looking at the news sources that they're showing people, we are finding liberal bias in either 9 or 10 of the search results that they're showing. Everybody, I have to emphasize this. In fact, in one of the reports that we just generated, the conservatives were getting more liberally biased content than the liberals were getting.
What?
Now this is yes. Now this is, by the way, mind-blowing when you think about how Google defends itself, because they always say, "Oh, it's the users.
Correct.
We're just giving them what they want to see. It's the users."
Correct.
If it's the users, I'm sorry, Google, but if it's the users, then conservatives would be getting conservatively biased content.
Correct.
They're getting every single demographic we've looked at is getting liberally biased content. And as I say in one report, we're seeing conservatives getting content that's more liberally biased than the content that liberals are getting.
What? I mean, you're a behavioral scientist kind of guy. What does that mean? What are they trying to do with that?
That means that these people are so arrogant, so out of control, that they're basically trying to push everyone. Maybe they can grab a few conservatives. See what I mean? They're trying to push everyone in one direction. Now, how do I know that they're doing this deliberately? Because all the whistleblowers, and there's a new one now from Google who's still working there, all the whistleblowers, Zach Voorhees, out with 950 pages of documents.
Yep, we've had him on.
And a video in which the head of YouTube is telling her staff, "We're changing our algorithm on YouTube so to push up content that we think is good content and push down content, like your content,
right,
that we don't like." And that's on video. So we know that this is deliberate from the whistleblowers and the leaks, but we are capturing massive amounts of data on a scale that's never been done before. They're basically confirming what the whistleblowers are telling us. This is deliberate. These people are arrogant. They're out of control. This is, in my opinion, evidence of large-scale election rigging sufficient to have shifted this year 15 million votes in one direction. Now, I happen to like that direction, but I think we should not allow this. These companies are doing this around the world.
Robert, this is the one thing that you and I first noticed about you that I really liked. I have no problem if Donald Trump loses and it's a fair election, and that is truly the will of the people. I will vehemently disagree with it, and I will do everything I can to fight for the constitutional norms. But I have a real problem with manipulation, stealing of election, all of this stuff. And I think most Americans are there. If it's really left into the hands of the American people, as Thomas Jefferson said, trust the people. They will make mistakes, but they will figure it out in the end, and they will fix it. We're not going that direction. In fact, with this kind of manipulation, we may never be able to fix it and get freedom back.
The problem is so much worse than what you just said.
Oh my gosh!
Because what's going to happen is the Democrats are going to sweep Washington, which I'm totally in favor of, and then all the investigations that are ongoing against Google and some of the other companies, but mainly Google. All those investigations by the DOJ, the FTC, the FCC, they will all shut down.
Okay, so let me ask you this question, because I've talked to people who say the exact same thing that you just did. I'm all in favor of the Democrats sweeping. However, it will mean tyranny. I don't want to ask you how you're voting or anything else, because I really don't care. It's none of my business, and I appreciate that you're on the other side. But are there a lot of people that say, oh, this is going to lead to tyranny? I just don't like Donald Trump so much, or, the GOP so much, that I just can't vote. I've got to vote for Democrats, even though the uber left is in bed with all of these tech companies.
Well, see, now you're using kind of lingo that, creeps me out. Okay.
Really? Okay.
Because I don't think that but let's not have a political discussion.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Let's just look at the nature of this particular problem, which is what I'm focusing on. I am not a Trump supporter,
but
it is absolutely unacceptable to me, and it should be to every single person in this country, to have companies like this that are not accountable to us. You see, when we elect people, they're accountable to us. But these were not elected people. I heard Senator Cruz a couple days ago kind of shouting at the head of Twitter saying, who the hell elected you? That's the problem here. These companies are not accountable to us, but they have these new powers to shift millions of votes. We're not talking about mail tampering, which might shift a few hundred votes here and there. Okay. And by the way, that's a competitive process. So who cares about it, really? We're not talking about Russia and Iran, maybe possibly, placing fake news stories, shifting a few thousand votes. We're talking about our own companies shifting over time millions of votes with no one knowing that this is occurring. And except for what I'm doing, no paper trail for authorities to trace.
If anyone thinks that people that think differently politically can't work together, I would like to introduce them to our relationship. I am proud to stand with you, Dr. Epstein, and I hope you have the goods on them in such a stunning way after this election, so we can possibly put a dent in it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Glenn. You have no idea what you and your listeners and viewers have accomplished. It's unbelievable.
Thank you so much. Stop Big Tech Now is the website.